Probably the best investment I ever made. $45. You figure out what the return on that investment is. It's multiple, returns.
There is a new American dream. One that doesn't involve working till you're 65 before you start enjoying life. If you're someone looking for ways to regain control over your time and check off that bucket list now, you're in the right place. We share tips from experts on investing, personal finance, and mindset so that you can finally have the freedom to work less and live more. This is the Freedom Investing Podcast with your host, Kris Toribio.
What's going on, everyone? This is Kris Toribio with the Freedom Investing Podcast, and I'm so happy you're here to join us for another amazing episode. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest episodes. Moving on to today's guest, we have Mike Morawski. Mike Morawski is a 30-year real estate investment veteran and has controlled over $285 million in real estate transactions. Mike is an entrepreneur, he's an author, he's a real estate trainer, a public speaker, and a personal coach with a strong personal resilience and a deep desire to help others live an extraordinary life. He is also the host of Multifamily Unplugged, a weekly real estate podcast that live streams every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mike has coached hundreds of real estate investors to fulfill their dreams. I personally am a big fan of Mike. He's a regular attendee at our meetup and was an amazing speaker at this year's conference. Mike, welcome to the show, brother. Before we dive into it, give us a quick 2-minute rundown of who you are, your background, and where you are in your journey to achieving time freedom.
Thanks, Kris. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning and, share with you and spend some time with you. I love what you're doing in the marketplace and how you're bringing a great message to people and your meetup and everything that you guys have going on. So thanks for that too, for your service as well. So like you said, I've been in real estate 30 years. Started out on the residential side as a residential agent. And what's funny is prior to that, I had a contracting business and I, was very successful at it. We were doing kitchen and bath remodeling and room additions. And, I had a company that was, any entrepreneur's dream really. And, Kris, as well as I do, being an entrepreneur, you're involved in hiring, firing, order taking, bookkeeping, everything that gets involved. And I was still in the field banging nails. And so I woke up one morning and I vividly remember sitting up in bed, looking at my wife at the time going, man, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I was just burnt out. So fortunately, I had somebody knocking at my door to buy the company, sold the company, and I took a year off. Well, Kris, as an entrepreneur, we never take time off, do we? So during that year, we house hacked a couple of houses. And I always say this is long before it was a sexy thing to do. Back then, it wasn't really heard of. But we lived in a 2-flat, rehabbed one of the units, moved into that one, rehabbed the other one, sold the building. Along the way, though, I met a real estate agent. And, years ago, I heard Jim Rohn say that success leaves clues. And whether you follow successful people or people who've made mistakes, either way, you're going to learn from them. And that's what I did. I met this real estate agent, went to him, said, hey, I think I'd like to go in the real estate business. He said, I think you'd be great at it. Encouraged me to do it. So I went and got licensed, learned from him. He built me a model that I could use and put it on a cassette tape for me. I listened to it over and over and over again. Went into business. My first 9 months in the business, I sold 78 houses. I was RE/MAX Rookie of the Year. I went on to build a team selling 125 listings a year and, did that for about 12 years until 2005. Saw the market starting to shift and wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen, but I had some people working for me. I didn't want to have to let anybody go or lay anybody off. Decided to go in the apartment business. Had always wanted to. When I was in the construction business, I did a lot of work for a couple local Chicago syndicators. And I understood the model. Understood you could raise private equity from individuals like you and I, Kris, and marry it with a great real estate deal, stay in the middle. And as long as everything went well, everybody'd make money. And so I syndicated my first apartment deal in 2005, and it went really well. And from there, I raised $18 million, bought 4,000 apartments. It was about $60 million worth of real estate. Did that in 30 months and built a property management company at the same time, managing about 7,500 units. So I actually built a company pretty close to $100 million in value.
Wow, that's extremely impressive. And that's a lot to unpack there, Mike. So,
Yeah.
just getting started here, it sounds like you had a construction company first, and then you transitioned to the sales side, and then eventually transitioned into apartment investing as a syndicator. Did you
Yeah.
have any sort of other profession or any other venture prior to doing the construction company?
Uh, Actually not. I worked a couple of jobs and, I don't know, Kris, I always had this, like my thoughts always were, I tell people today I'm unemployable because I can't work for anybody else. First of all, I've been self-employed for so long and I'm so critical of other people and the way they run their business. And I shouldn't say critical, but that's not really the word. It's just, I think that I can do things better. Right. And I think that's what makes me a good coach today is because I can see from the outside how other people are operating personally and professionally. And I can help you self-discover what you really know you should be doing and then, help you execute on a new way and scale your business. So I worked for some people and I just said, man, I could do this business myself. I actually was working for a swimming pool contractor and we were building swimming pools and servicing them. And it really kind of a simple business and, but yet complex. So I wouldn't tell anybody just go into that business. The reason I wound up in the construction business, because in the Midwest, it's hard to be in the pool business all year. So I started doing kitchen and bath remodeling and just hired people who knew what to do. So I learned how to bid jobs, go out and sell jobs and, did well. So
Wow. We should have added serial entrepreneur onto your bio there because it sounds like you've dipped your toes in multiple facets of real estate
yeah,
and clearly have been very successful at them. And I know there's a caveat to this, and we'll get to that later on. But at this point in time right now, Mike, so you had your construction company, you sold it, you transitioned into the sales, and then you were exponentially successful at that, and you ran that for around 12 years before getting into apartment investing. So talk to us a little bit about that transition from construction to selling homes and then transitioning into multifamily. What did that transition look like from a time management standpoint as well as a lifestyle standpoint?
yeah. Back then, Kris, time management was something that I didn't think a lot about. Right. I worked and I worked a lot and, so, as much as I tried to spend time with, family, and do other things. And, I had to force myself to, take a break, take a long weekend, go on vacation, things like that. Again, as an entrepreneur trying to run everything. But what I learned along the way was how to leverage, right? How to delegate. I think delegating was one of the first lessons I ever learned. And it was the hardest lesson I learned because you don't want to give up control, right? People say to me, and this is a great example. I just had this conversation with someone the other day. They said, why don't we take the train? I said, that'd be great. But when I get there, I don't have a car. And it's like when I drive my car, I feel like I'm in control, right? I can leave when I want. I can go when I want. I can get there how I want, you know. And it was the same thing with delegating. I didn't want to relinquish that control of the things that I knew how to do. And it was a discipline for me to learn how to do that. I think this is a funny story because you might have the same task that you do once a week and it takes you 5 minutes to do it. But you know what? It disrupts your pattern of other things that you could be doing. or take away from that little bit of time you might be able to be on the phone with an investor or someone else. But it takes you 15 minutes to teach it to somebody, and you have to teach it to them 2 or 3 times. But once you teach it to them, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. I hated the teaching part of it because it took more time to teach it than just to do it. So that's my control thing, right? So once I learned how to break that bad habit, then I was better at delegating and being able to give that stuff away.
I love that. And I can totally resonate with that as well, both from an entrepreneurial standpoint, as well as someone who really wants to kind of have a really good pulse on what's going on in my business. And so from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you're absolutely right. There's always something that can be done, and trying to force yourself to take the time to disconnect from that can sometimes be a challenge.
Yeah.
But on the other end, we read this book called Who Not How.
Yeah.
And have you read that as well?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And that was such a game changer in our business as well, is really understanding that if you wanted to get something done, sometimes the question isn't how can I do this, but who can I find to help me get this achieved? Right. And that's been a very big impact on our business as well.
Yeah.
And so transitioning now into apartment investing, right? So you're very successful on the sales end. You were very successful on the construction end. You had your knowledge and the experience that you were bringing into apartment investing. And so you ended up raising, what was it, $18 million, you said, to purchase like $40 million of real estate?
Yeah, in 30 months.
In 30 months.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
So, a couple of different ways. I always use the fishing analogy, Kris. I like to have more lines in the water. If you have one line in the water and you're fishing, and I don't like to fish, I just use the analogy, right? If you have one line in the water, you're going to be limited to what you catch. But if you have multiple lines in the water, you're going to catch more. So I had, 4 or 5 things that worked really well for me. The first thing I ever did is I put a little classified ad in a local area newspaper, and all the ad said was real estate investors wanted. So, I went to contract on that first apartment building that I bought, and I said, man, I got to raise money. How am I going to do it? Well, I put an ad in the paper, spent $45. That little $45 ad, over the next 7 months, I raised about just around $600,000 from it. Probably the best investment I ever made. $45. You figure out what the return on that investment is. It's multiple, returns. From there, I just figured out how to build my database, continually stay in front of those people. I did seminars in my office and asked for referrals. And I think as somebody raising private capital, the one thing that, and I'm still guilty of this myself, that we don't do is we don't ask for referrals. Hey, Kris, who else do you know? Right? And everybody's got an uncle, a rich uncle that's looking for something to do. So.
Absolutely. So the more people you can get in front of, you can leverage now their network to help kind of spread how you're trying to help them and your mission of your company, and, being able to just have an impact on that much more people. That's amazing.
Right.
And so this has all been successful up until this point. And this is what you said, you started this around 2005. What do the next couple years look like from there?
So I started in 2005, 30 months, 2008 rolled around. It was like hitting a brick wall in a freight train at 200 miles an hour. Totally started to derail. The worst economic crisis that the country's ever seen happened in the residential markets first. And I think that this is what I kind of saw coming in 2005, but wasn't sure what the extent of it was going to be. I mean, Kris, when you can walk into a bank and they hold a mirror up in front of you and say, breathe on this, and you fog the mirror and they give you a loan, that enough of those types of loans, something's going to happen. And that's what was going on at the time. So the CNBC markets crushed, and foreclosures, and people lost jobs. By 2010, our small boutique syndication company started to implode. And I hate giving people bad news. I hate being the one saying, hey, we have a problem, or the market's bad, or anything like that. So my company, I had 38 different companies at the time, and some were very profitable. Some were not so profitable. I should have let the not profitable ones just go to foreclosure and let a few investors get hurt as a result of that. But I didn't want anybody to get hurt. So I went to my attorney and my accountant, came up with a plan to move money between companies. So I'd take money from profitable companies, move it to non-profitable companies, thinking I could keep the ship upright. Well, my whole thought process behind it, Kris, was this is a recession. I had been through a couple of recessions. They last 17 or 18 months. There's a 10 or 12% correction in the marketplace. It bounces back, and you're good to go again. Well, that didn't happen this time. It was 7 or 8 years, a 40% correction in the marketplace. It makes it really tough to mitigate that storm. So I start moving money back and forth between companies. And that wasn't the problem. The problem was I didn't tell my investors what I was doing or my intentions. So I wound up being charged on wire fraud and mail fraud charges as a result of non-disclosure issues, and being sentenced to 10 years in federal prison.
Wow, that is a huge turn of events, given the success that you had experienced for many years prior to that. At that point in time, how did you feel that you were going to overcome this? I mean, what was this experience like? I mean, now you end up in a federal prison, and you just had 38 companies. Couple investors ended up getting hurt from this. The market had crashed. All of these things were kind of falling under your plate. And what does this kind of look like for you at this point?
Dark. It was the darkest days of my life. You go from living this worldly successful lifestyle by the world's view and appearance, to being, to nothing, right? I walked around in prison early on thinking my life was over, that I was done. Here's what I always tell people. I say I never flew private. I didn't have a big house. I didn't buy a fancy car. I didn't have a boat. I was the neighborhood baseball coach. I was home, at night for dinner. I got ripped from that to live in a 12 by 12 room with 3 men I didn't know, nor did I like. Wondering what the hell happened in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're going through this experience. You obviously, once you finished your sentence, or did you end up finishing your sentence early, or what did that kind of look like over those next few years?
Yeah, so I actually spent almost 8 years in prison. My first 3 weeks were awful. Walked around every day wondering how I was going to get through today, much less 10 years, not knowing exactly how much time I would spend in prison. And then my wife served me with divorce papers, and that just crushed me. I didn't know, the joke in prison, Kris, was let's take his shoelaces because we're afraid he's going to hurt himself. And, you have to take that seriously, but I didn't know what to do. So, one day I walk in the gym. I was probably in prison about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And I walk in the gym, and let me just preempt this by saying I was only window shopping. I wasn't looking to lift a weight. I wasn't looking to work out. I had gone from running marathons to being 35 pounds overweight, and I hated myself. And I walk in the gym, and this guy walks up to me. And I just think that this goes to the resilience part, right? And this guy walks up to me and he goes, hey, don't let these people beat you. All they want to do is take from you everything you've ever had, everything you've ever known. They can take your business. They can take your real estate. They can take destroy your world, destroy your family. But what they can't take is who you are and what you're made of. They can't take what you have up here. They can destroy everything else, but you can go get everything back. You're the one who built that $100 million company. You're the one that knows how to do it. And now today, you know even better. So I don't know what it was, but I think we all have these defining moments in our life. And it was like somebody flipped a switch. And all of a sudden I went, you're right. He said, come to my class, start working out. You'll start to lose weight. You'll start feeling better. And I took him up on it. Kris, to this day, I don't know why, but I started going to his class. I started working out. I started feeling better. You know, you put that energy and that movement, right? I started feeling better. I wound up writing 2 books. I wrote a book called Exit Plan, Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan Before You Buy. I wrote an ethics course. I taught real estate investing, property management, and ethics in prison for 6 years. I was on an outreach program. I went into the community and told my story to small business owners and local college students. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology over 4 years. I met a professor from the University of Minnesota, and he and I co-authored a paper together that we had published in the Business Journal of Ethics that gets taught at the collegiate level today for forensic accounting and sales and marketing classes. Today I'm home. I'm in the coaching and training business. I teach multifamily investors, private investors, how to get involved in multifamily real estate, other asset classes, and not live an unbalanced lifestyle, not make the mistakes I made, but how to scale a business. And I recently was approved by the SEC to go back, sponsor deals, be an issuer of securities, and do real estate syndications again.
What an amazing story, and very, very much. I have to applaud you every single time I hear this. It gives me goosebumps. But kudos to you for the resilience. You know, that's one thing that you had mentioned there, and with entrepreneurship in general, resilience comes up a lot because the ticket to success doesn't happen overnight. We always know that. But the question always comes to how much are you willing to endure in order to achieve the success that you're wanting to achieve? And you may have this goal that's set for yourself to where, you know, you're going to achieve that goal in maybe 1 year. But the reality is it may not be for another 2 years or 5 years or even 10 years.
Right.
Some people are lucky enough to achieve that even sooner than that in 6 months. But the reality is we don't really know. We could be doing everything right, but oftentimes it's just a matter of how long and how much you're willing to endure. And resilience plays a huge role in that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so at this point in time, Mike, you're out, you're helping others really invest in apartment buildings. I guess before we dive into our Freedom 5, what are some quick take-home messages at this point in time, given all of this extensive experience that you've endured so far?
Yeah, and you just said something about the resilience thing that kind of sparked something. So I'm glad you're asking this question right now. Kris, I was in the real estate business about 3 years, and I walk in a client's house one day, and he says to me, "Man, Morawski, you are so tenacious." And I had no idea what the word meant. So very graciously, I said, hoping that it meant something good, right? Very graciously, I go, "Thank you. I appreciate that." And I run home, and I wound up taking the listing that day, but I run home, I look in the dictionary, and I said, wow, tenacity. That's what I am. I never take no for an answer. I continue to pursue and try and accomplish the end goal, right? You keep that end goal in mind. But I'm very tenacious. And, on my podcast, I ask one word, I ask the same question all the time. I think I'll write a book on this one of these days is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally? And I think for me, it's tenacity.
There you go. So it's really a matter of being able to continuously endure and continuously not take a no for an answer. Pick yourself right back up where you left off.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, folks. So we're coming toward the end of today's show. But before we finish, it is time for the Freedom 5. These are 5 questions that we ask every guest on our show, starting with the most important question. What is your why? What is the underlying motivation behind everything it is that you do?
That's a great question. My why today, and it's changed over the years, but my why today is to bring hope and inspiration to the average person, to let people know that they can't let their past define their future. I think so many people, Kris, I was locked up in a physical prison behind a wall. And I think so many people walk around in a prison in their mind. They're trapped by addiction. They're trapped, whether that be alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling. They're trapped by past abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, and they let that control them. And I think people need to understand that we can't let our past define our future. And that's a message that I like to deliver today, is that hope and that inspiration, and that you can move forward and change your life. Just like that guy said to me when I walked in the gym that day, don't let these people dictate your future.
I absolutely love that. Oftentimes, the biggest barrier to people's success is right between their 2 ears. Mm-hmm. And we interviewed Ray Woods the other day, and he was saying the same thing, that if there's any piece of advice he would give, it would be to consult someone to help work through those personal issues that you may be needing to work through. Because ultimately, when it comes to taking action, if you have those mental barriers, you're gonna experience a lot of resistance to being able to achieve your dreams because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the second question we have here is, what book has had the largest influence on your life?
So other than the Bible, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. That book I read years ago, and I taught the basic strategies from that book in investment seminars that I would invite people to, and then teach them about passive investing as a result of that. I think that book is timeless. It has basic principles in it that you could use anytime, anywhere in your real estate investing.
Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. Everybody go ahead and purchase a copy of that one. The third question we have here.
I'll tell people if they want a copy of it, call me and I'll send them a copy.
There you go. Contact Mike Morawski and he'll send you a copy. Even better. All right. The third question we have here is, what is the most impactful thing, whether that be a piece of technology, a habit, or a person, that has helped in freeing up your time?
So we talked about it early in the show, and we talked about being able to delegate. I'm an advocate for buying time if you have to. Get somebody to cut your grass, get somebody to clean your house, pay somebody to do your social media, to do your marketing, to do everything that allows you the time to do what's most important. And what's most important is talking to people about whatever stage or part of real estate investing you're in, whether you're acquiring property or whether you're raising capital. You need to do more of that and be intentional about what you're doing in order to achieve that. But if you have all these other distractions going on, so get rid of the distractions, even if you have to buy somebody to do those for you.
I love that. I love that. We talk about this all the time in terms of, what is your time worth, right? If you are going to be doing a task that you can hire out for, X amount per hour, and you realize, let's say it's like $5 per hour or $7 per hour, and you have determined that your time is worth more than that. Let's say it's $20 per hour. Then you hire out that $5 to $7 per hour every day of the week, because you understand that your time can be better devoted to doing other higher level things that are in your business. So that's huge.
Yeah.
The fourth question we have here is, what is your number one piece of advice you would give to anyone looking to achieve more control over their time?
Boy, to gain more control over their time, my number one piece of advice would be to be intentional about your day. Get up. I named my company My Core Intentions, right? when you get up in the morning and you start your day, what's your power hour look like, right? Your gratitude, your thankfulness, your prayer time, your exercise time. What does that morning time look like for you? And during that morning time, set your intentions for the day. Pre-plan your day. So who do you have to talk to? What property do you have to walk? How many inspections do you need to do? Whatever that is, whatever job you're in your career, in your life, be intentional about it.
I love that. And Mike, do you do that on a day-by-day basis, or do you kind of plan out your week in advance? How does that work for you?
Chris, we're both entrepreneurs. We know we can plan it at the beginning of the week, but by the time the day shows up, it's changed a little bit. So, I do it both. So, Sunday night is always the night for me to sit down and pre-plan my week and look at my calendar, make sure I kind of have a focus on it. But listen, by Tuesday, it's distorted. So you have to look at it again. So
plan forward, but remain flexible, right?
Right.
All right, Mike, the fifth and final question we have for you is, what is the best way for our listeners to get in contact with you?
Yeah, thanks, Kris. First of all, I'd love to give away a copy of my book. You could go directly to my website at mycoreintentions.com/free, and you could download a copy of Exit Plan, or if you are a passive investor, 27 must-ask questions, ebook there. So there's some other things that you could grab a hold of. If you want to contact me directly, email me, mike@mycoreintentions.com. If you have questions or I've left you, with anything you want to know, don't hesitate to do that. And then, Kris, I also have a summit coming up, my annual 3-day summit. It's a virtual event. It will be, I'm sure it's going to be the largest virtual event of 2022. And I have over 20 speakers, 3 panels, 2 breakout rooms. We're going to play the game cash flow. I have some really big name speakers, people that are in the space, in the industry, doing thousands of units a year, that are going to be speaking this year. I am so excited about this event. People can go there and register for that at multifamily22.com. And like I said, if you can't be there, it will be recorded. You'll be able to get a copy of the recording and listen to it at your leisure. So
if anyone is looking to really tap into the mind and network of this real estate veteran that we have here on our show today, highly encourage everyone to go ahead and sign up to that event. It's going to be incredible, as well as check out My Core Intentions and his book that he has on his website as well. Highly encourage everyone to go ahead and do that. Mike, tons of really great information today. I really like how you discussed your story from when you just got started in your contracting business, all the way going through your real estate sales business, and then going into multifamily syndication, taking a really big hit from that and talking to us about the resilience that you needed to pick yourself back up and continue to succeed. And now you're helping others do the same. I really like how you went ahead and discussed and shared with us how you manage your time, as well as what is it that you do in terms of like how you stay intentional with what it is that you want to do on a day-by-day basis. I just want to thank you again for being a fantastic guest, and I look forward to remaining in touch.
Thanks, Kris. I appreciate it. Appreciate your support and friendship, and look forward to continuing that relationship.
Now, if you like this show and want to learn more about how we can help you free up your time through passive real estate investments, check out www.freedominvesting.com. Make sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter and schedule an introductory call with our team. We also have a free 7-day course on what passive real estate investing is and how to get started so that you can start your journey towards earning back more time in your life. To all of our amazing listeners here on the Freedom Investing Podcast, my name is Kris Toribio. Till next time.